I'm Cailey, a librarian here at Metro Public Library.
And I'm Meg, also a librarian, and welcome to this week's edition of All Booked Up with Cailey and Meg, where each time we give you different book recommendations on a specific theme. This time, we're going to be looking at teen top 10 books. So when I say top 10, I'm talking about books recommended by YALSA. YALSA stands for Young Adult Library Services Association, and it's one of the resources we as librarians use often to help find books that we think our readers will enjoy.
Yes, and YALSA puts out lists on all sorts of different topics, and there are two that we really like that are sort of the end of the year ones that we're going to be talking about today. And the one that I picked books from is called the Teens Top 10. And this list was just announced at the beginning of November. And it's actually a selection of books chosen by teens as their favorite published in the last year.
Yeah, and I'm going to be using another list also produced by YALSA, which is a list of top 10 books, but chosen by library professionals. So these are ones that they've read through, and these are the ones that librarians consider the best of the best.
And all of these books are available here at the library, as well as online for free with your library card through Libby and Hoopla.
Very good. So Cailey, what is your first top 10 book?
Yes, so the first one I have is from this year's Teens Top 10, and it is called 5 Total Strangers by Natalie Richards. And so this is about Mira, who is desperate to get home to spend Christmas with her mother. After her mother's sister passed away last year, her mom hasn't really been handling grief that well, and Mira is just desperate to get home to her. So when her connecting flight from New York to Pittsburgh is canceled due to a snowstorm, she is, just desperate enough to hitch a ride with some strangers. Now, luckily, the girl she was next to on the plane, Harper, is renting a car with 3 other college-aged kids. And, she feels like it's a bunch of college kids. There's not much to go wrong there. The other kids are Brecken, Josh, and Kayla. And now if this were a Hallmark movie, hilarity would ensue. But this book takes a very different turn. So traveling in a winter storm is bad enough. They see a bunch of accidents. The visibility is really limited. And, they have a few close calls themselves with the snow. But on top of that, tensions are rising in the car. Things have started to go missing. The charging ports have been tampered with. And something seems to be wrong with the snow chains. And it seems like someone in the car does not want everyone to make it home alive for Christmas. But who and why? Yeah. So this one is like, just the premise of this feels very intense to me because, when you're trapped in a car with people, there's nowhere to go. So I'm very it brings up that idea of how can someone get away with all this stuff in such close quarters, but also, being in a snowstorm, it's a different type of isolation there because, it's already very intense and scary when you're driving in the snow. Right. And, of course, the premise of she got herself into this situation by getting into a car with people she did not know.
Ooh, cautionary tale. Oh man, that sounds great. I like I'm sure here in Ohio we'll have snow any day now. No, hopefully not. But so I like the setting, perfect for this time of year and it's highly recommended. So I think it sounds really good. So my first choice is also kind of a suspenseful book. It's called Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this was on the list put out 2 years ago, 2019. And this one is a mystery that explores growing up, prejudice, and the amazing lengths someone will go to have their friends back. So it centers around 2 girls, Claudia and Monday. And they are inseparable BFFs, which, stands for best friends forever. And at 14 years old, they are on the cusp of experiencing the gauntlet that is high school. So they've been friends for years and they're excited to go through this together. Claudia is especially excited for school to start because she has spent the last summer hanging out with her grandma, like visiting her grandma. So she hasn't had as much time to spend with her friend Monday. So she's especially excited for the school year to start. But strange things happen on the first day. On the first day of school, her friend Monday is nowhere to be found. Okay, you missed one day of school. Okay, and it's the first day, whatever, okay? But one day turns into 1 week missing, and Claudia begins to become very concerned about her best friend. And really what becomes really unsettling for Claudia is how none of the adults seem concerned about this. So most of the teachers she talks to really just seem to brush it off or kind of give her an unclear answer as to why her friend's not there. So with this in mind, Claudia starts to become a little Sherlock Holmes and begins asking around and snooping to figure out where her friend is. So she asks Monday's family and gets unclear answers. And as she learns more and more, she realizes that quite a lot of people don't really remember the last time they saw Monday. So it's a really intriguing mystery. It also looks at the difference, kind of the racial discrepancy when someone goes missing. Claudia and Monday are both Black. So it kind of explores that, like, why isn't anyone concerned about this like they should be? And then also it just is a great story of friendship, I think. So I really think this is an intriguing book that is interesting if you like whodunits, but also tackles some serious themes as well.
Yeah, I think I have read about that one. I feel like I read someone's review of it recently.
Okay.
And
yeah.
it definitely does have that sort of almost like gaslighting vibe to it of,
Right.
the
Yeah.
friend being the only one who seems to notice and miss her.
Right.
That itself is one of those things in books that really just like heightens the tension.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whew.
All right, so for something completely different,
Nice.
the other book that I chose is from the 2019 Teens Top 10 list, and this
Okay.
one is called American Panda by Gloria Chao.
Mhm.
And as I said, completely different, a little bit more lighthearted.
Nice. Yeah.
But this one is about May, who is 17-year-old Taiwanese American student at MIT. She skipped a grade as part of her parents' master plan for her to become a doctor. And that wasn't the only thing that they planned for her. They also want her to marry a parent-approved Taiwanese man. Well, they have someone in mind, and have a boatload of children. But, what May seems to be struggling with is that she doesn't want any of that.
Yeah.
She is basically going through the motions of her parents' plan, but her heart is really not in it. And May is just bored by biology classes and really grossed out by the idea of being a doctor. She suffers from some severe germophobia, like an actual phobia of it, and causes her a lot of anxiety, even just the thought of having to deal with bodily fluids. So she's just really not into this plan. She loves to dance and she really wants to pursue that. But the thought of disappointing her parents is just terrifying. And she's worried that if she does disappoint them, they will disown her, which might sound a little extreme, except it happened to her brother. Her older brother was disowned by the family after dating a non-parent approved, non-Taiwanese girl. And so she's been estranged from her brother, but when he comes back into her life, she really starts to question if she should stay on this path or if she should try to venture into, territory unknown by doing something for herself and not for her parents. And this is just a really interesting story because I think it gives that feel that a lot of teens are going through, struggling with wanting to make their parents really proud of them and also wanting to pursue something that maybe isn't their parents' best idea for them.
Yeah.
And this is very good for like the cultural inclusion. Like May, it's very important to her Taiwanese culture, and she respects her Taiwanese culture, but she doesn't want to be tied to certain things the same way her parents were and are. And so it shows a lot of different struggles that this girl's going through, and it's very realistic. I think it's very relatable. And it's also got some good humor and stuff like that included in the story.
I love it. I love it when books, like you said, tackle something relatable that's like a struggle, like dealing with expectations and things of that nature, but also keep it lighthearted and humorous at the same time. So she sounds really relatable and just an endearing character to root for. So I like
Definitely.
that. Yeah. So my next book is Be Not Far From Me by Mindy Mcginnis, who is a semi-local author, Ohio author.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is from this year's list. So this is a new 2021 book. And you know how sometimes they say you read books either as an escape or to experience someone else's view of the world? Well, this book is kind of like that for me because the protagonist is Ashley, who is very good at hiking and says she is more comfortable with trees over her head than a roof. So as someone who's a little agoraphobic, this girl is, taking me, challenging me to, be different. So she loves hiking. And this is a book that it kind of reminds me of Hatchet in the sense that she runs into some trouble in nature. So one day she and her friends go out hiking to have this party out in the middle of the woods, which that doesn't sound dangerous at all, does it?
No, not at all.
Not at all. But so when they're out there, there's a little bit of drinking. So this might be a little bit of an older teen book, by the way. But anyway, what happens during this party is she catches her boyfriend kissing someone else. And, if you're drinking and you see something that really upsets you, sometimes bad things can happen. Well, in this case for Ashley, she kind of runs in this drunken rage. And the next thing she's alone at the bottom of a ravine, trapped. So she has to figure out how to get out of this situation. And this is where the hatchet part comes in. She has to use all her outdoorsy skills and knack for, getting out of tough situations to try and find her way back home, because she really doesn't even know where she is. So along the way, you deal with that. And then she's also dealing with some of her internal, thinking about what happened back at the party and back with her friends and home life as well. So it kind of looks at her character as well through the story. But I really like those kind of hatchet stories just because they're thrilling. They're kind of real turn pagers. She's like, what's going to happen? Is she going to get out of this? So I really like it for that reason. Super easy read in that sense. So that's one from this year that I would highly suggest.
Yes, I mean, I think those survivalist type stories, there's a reason that they become very popular, because we all sort of want to see how the person gets out of the situation they're in.
Right.
And see if they can live to tell their tale after the fact. And it always seems to be something simple that gets them stuck in that situation.
I know.
But that sounds really interesting. I would definitely pick that up. One of those things to just kind of see how they get out of that.
Yeah.
And of course we do support Mindy Mcginnis here.
Yes, absolutely.
Local author.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for joining us for our teen top 10 books. If you go to YALSA's website, you can see the full list to get other recommendations as well. And as we mentioned earlier, we got all these books here if you're interested in reading them.
Yes, and you can check the back lists too. Just because it's last year's list doesn't mean the book's not good.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Happy reading.